After my reborn brother dumped me under a bridge, I ended up with a strange kind of family. My dad was 15. He stole baby formula and clumsily fed me. My mom was 12. She stole yarn to knit me warm clothes for the winter. My little dad was 10. He stole toys just to see me smile. Using stolen goods, they built a home for me in a dilapidated old shack. When my biological parents finally found me and started accusing them of being thieves, I just glared and threw a single sentence at them. None of your damn business. They didn't understand. Some homes are gilded cages filled with hate. My home might have started with theft, but it was built on love. Don't blame me, Anna. Blame yourself for coming back and getting Chloe killed. The cold voice rang in my ears. It was Zach. But how was that possible? Didn't I already die of illness on that freezing, forgotten winter night? I struggled to open my eyes, but everything was a blur. I tried to speak, but all that came out was a soft gurgle. I froze. I was being held tight against his chest. I could hear his ragged breathing and the violent thumping of his heart. I didn't know how long he'd been running, but he finally stopped and unceremoniously dumped me onto the frozen ground. Only if you die can Chloe live a long, safe life in this timeline. He said it without a shred of hesitation, then turned and walked away. The wind was biting. I shivered in my swaddling clothes. It turned out the first thing my brother did after being reborn was to kill me all over again. Scenes from my past life flashed through my mind like a movie on fast forward. Being maliciously swapped at birth, suffering for 18 years with the Carter family. When my biological parents finally found me, I thought it was my salvation. I remembered the day I came home. Chloe stood at the top of the stairs in a white dress, tears streaming down her face before she even spoke. Mom looked at her impatiently and asked, "Why haven't you moved out yet?" Through her tears, Chloe smiled and said, "Mom, I'm leaving right now." That same day, she killed herself in the bathroom. From then on, the entire family hated me. The bone-chilling wind snapped me back to reality. My consciousness was fading. Dying like this, maybe it wasn't so bad. Just before the darkness took me, I heard a crisp male voice. "Why is there a baby here? She's so small. So pitiful." A girl gently touched my cheek. "Hold, hold," a younger boy shouted, dancing with excitement. When I woke up again, I was in a mud brick shack. The walls were plastered with yellow mud, and the wooden rafters were blackened with soot and draped in old cobwebs. 3 kids were gathered around the bed, arguing. "We can't even feed ourselves. How are we gonna raise her?" Jason frowned. "Taking her to the police station tomorrow is the safest bet. If we take her to the cops, she ends up in the system." Emily's voice suddenly choked up. "I can't let her become the second me." Jason was silent for a moment, his voice dropping lower. "Maybe her family is looking for her." "Looking for her?" Emily let out a cold laugh. "If they actually cared, would they have left her under a bridge to die? Maybe she was stolen." "I don't care about other people." Emily cut him off, stubbornly wiping her eyes. "I only know that if we dump her now, she might actually die." Unable to agree, they both turned to the boy who hadn't spoken yet. "Gabe, what do you think?" Gabe grinned. "Whatever you guys want." Emily, see? Gabe agrees with me. Jason, see? Gabe thinks like I do. Gabe didn't look at them. He leaned over the edge of the bed, his clear eyes staring unblinkingly at me. When he saw my eyes open, his face lit up. He clumsily extended a finger and gently poked my cheek. "Smile," he mumbled, then looked up at the arguing pair and shouted happily, "Awake!" The arguing stopped instantly. Emily and Jason both leaned over, 6 eyes staring nervously at me. I stared blankly at these 3 young faces. They looked so small. Younger than I was when I died in despair in my last life. After Chloe died, my mother went insane. One moment she would be gently stroking my hair, eyes red, whispering, "My poor baby has suffered so much." The next, the moment she remembered Chloe was dead, a slap would come flying across my face. "It's you. You killed her. Give me back my Chloe." She would lunge at me, choking me, her nails digging deep into my flesh. My father would just stand with his back to us, looking out the window, a pile of cigarette butts at his feet. My brother, Zach, came back from abroad after Chloe had already been cremated. He never even got to see her one last time. He pushed me down the stairs. As I tumbled down the steps, amidst the agony, I only heard his cold voice. Go keep Chloe company in hell. Lying in a pool of blood, looking into his hate-filled eyes, my heart died completely. Maybe I shouldn't have come into this world at all. Why isn't she crying or making noise? Jason's doubtful voice broke my train of thought. Emily reached out and incredibly gently pulled me into her arms. Her arms were thin, but her embrace was unusually warm. Is she sick? She looked down at me, her eyes filled with a kind of pure worry I had never seen before. Gabe stood on his tiptoes, struggling to hold an old, faded but polished bell in front of my eyes. He gave it a gentle shake. Ding-a-ling. The clear sound was like sunlight piercing through dark clouds, rippling crisply through the dilapidated shack. Not sick, he said vaguely, anxiously. Pain, fly away. In that moment, the care I had begged for in my previous life and never received, I was getting from a few homeless kids. A wave of grievance hit me, and I let out a wail, crying my eyes out. I didn't even know exactly what I was crying about. My crying sent Emily into a panic. Gabe shook the bell even harder. Don't cry, don't cry. Jason turned and ran out. Not long after, he came back panting, holding a bowl of warm milk. She must be hungry. After finishing the milk, my body warmed up, and my reason slowly returned. I felt a delayed sense of embarrassment. My soul was technically 20 years old, yet I had just cried uncontrollably in front of 3 kids. It was humiliating, but they clearly didn't mind my loss of composure. They were just worried about the next problem. What if she gets hungry again tonight? Emily gently patted my back, frowning. I begged the neighbor for that milk, said Gabe was throwing a fit for it. Jason turned his face away uncomfortably, looking guilty. Gabe, hearing his name, immediately made a face and complained, "Brother is bad." A look of even deeper embarrassment crossed Jason's face. After a brief silence, Emily spoke hesitantly. I heard someone say today, the folks over in Oak Creek, there's a family that keeps a dairy cow. Silence fell over the shack. I'll go, Jason said after a moment, grabbing an old tin can and heading for the door. No. My heart skipped a beat. In the rural outskirts in the 90s, if you got caught stealing, people would beat you half to death. How could someone like me be worth him taking that risk? I waved my arms frantically, trying to stop him. Yay, baby sister is playing with me. Gabe was attracted by my waving arms and leaned in happily, carefully touching my fingertips with his own. Emily smiled a little too. Look, she likes you. I'm not playing. I'm trying to stop Jason. I slapped Gabe's hand away. Staring at Jason's back as he walked out the door, opened my mouth, and wailed loudly. Maybe this was the only way to make him stay. Emily immediately picked me up and rocked me. Gabe spun around anxiously, ringing his precious bell like crazy. But I ignored their comfort completely. My eyes were fixed on that closed, broken wooden door. Don't go, Jason. Come back. I'm not worth this. An immense sense of powerlessness and panic seized me, and I couldn't stop crying. Not worth it. Someone like me isn't worth it. The room was cold as an ice cellar. Emily held me tight. Her eyes, like mine, were fixed on that broken door. The frantic, chaotic beating of her heart hammered against my ear. Even Gabe, usually the most restless, was curled up quietly on the edge of the bed, his big eyes staring unblinkingly at the entrance. Memories of my past life haunted me like ghosts, mocking me, telling me I didn't deserve love. With the Carters, I was the money pit. When my foster sister wore new clothes and ate candy, I was shoveling manure. When it was her birthday, I was curled up in the woodshed with a high fever, ignored by everyone. When she skipped school, I was the one who got beaten. When I got my period for the first time, terrified and confused, my foster mother just glanced at me with disgust. Bad luck charm. Get to the shed. Don't dirty my floor. At the Sterling house, my biological mother was sometimes lucid, sometimes manic. Zach would throw me into her room and lock the door. Under the lights, she would run the cold edge of scissors across my face and arms, muttering, "Chloe, look, Mommy is getting revenge for you." Will you forgive Mommy now? And Zach, those eyes full of hatred were always watching me. Why aren't you dead yet? Whenever he got drunk, he would storm into my room, fists and feet raining down on me. Go die. Why did you come back? Give me back Chloe. I seemed to be suffering in different places, never truly loved by anyone, living carefully on eggshells, yet always being wrong. It felt like my birth itself was a mistake, that I should have rotted in some unknown corner like garbage. But now Jason was risking everything for me. Every second felt like torture. The barking of dogs in the distance, the whimpering of the night wind, everything made me tremble. If something happened to him, if he got caught stealing if he didn't come back, the thought plunged me into an icy abyss, my very soul shivering. A fierce hatred I had never felt before surged up, not at the Carters, not at the Sterlings, not at fate. I hated myself. I hated that I hadn't just frozen to death under that bridge today. Jason came back safe, but what about next time? I guess they didn't have parents. Otherwise, why would 3 kids be living so hard, malnourished and sallow, struggling to survive in a drafty mud shack? Compared to them, I was lucky. At least with the Carters and the Sterlings, they hadn't deliberately starved me. In the middle of the night, when Emily carefully brought warm milk to my lips, I kept my mouth shut tight. I wouldn't eat. Someone like me wasn't worth Jason risking his life. Seeing me refuse to eat, all 3 of them panicked. Why won't she eat? Is she sick? Jason tested my forehead with the back of his hand, his tone anxious. Gabe stomped his feet in worry, piling his most precious treasures, the bell, smooth stones, next to me, trying to make me happy. Emily looked at me, her clear eyes slowly filling with tears. She picked me up, holding me tight. Hot tears fell onto my face, one by one, so hot they almost burned my skin. Don't cry. It's not worth it. I wanted to reach out and wipe her tears, but my waving arms were uncontrollable, only managing sounds. Emily looked into my eyes, which were filled with a heartache far beyond my apparent age. She seemed to read something else in my resistant gaze. She choked back a sob and sighed softly. Little Anna, do you know? Do you know you were thrown away, and that's why you're so hopeless you won't even eat? My heart jolted. She hugged me tighter, pressing her cheek against my forehead, her tears soaking my blanket. She continued speaking, as if to me, or perhaps to her past self. Little Anna, it's not easy coming into this world. That sentence was like a beam of light, instantly cutting through the gloom of both my lives. Don't ruin yourself for people who don't love you, she continued, every word carrying the weight of her tears, smashing into my heart. If they don't love you, someone else will. I was thrown away by my mom and dad too. They left me at the orphanage gate and never came back. Her voice trembled, but she tried to stay calm. And Gabe, he was left by the roadside. Jason, he doesn't have parents anymore either. We all know what it tastes like to be thrown away. It's really cold. It's really scary. As she spoke, she smiled through the tears. But look, I have Jason and Gabe to love me, and now we have you. We found you, so we're family now. We won't throw you away. Never. Don't leave us, okay? You being alive, it's important to us. Very important. From that day on, I started drinking milk. I wanted to grow up fast. Jason became my dad, Emily became my mom, and Gabe insisted on being my little dad. I didn't know why they were so set on being my parents. It wasn't until much later that Emily told me, it only feels like a home if there's a mom and dad. The mud house was the last memory Jason had of his parents. 3 kids, barely grown themselves, gave everything to raise their daughter. Jason took Gabe out before dawn with sacks on their backs, returning at night carrying plastic bottles and cardboard boxes. Gabe couldn't tell value apart, and always brought back pretty rocks as treasures. Jason never scolded him. Late at night, Jason would still go to Oak Creek to steal milk. He only took a small amount each time, never getting greedy. He said that way, the owners wouldn't notice, or if they did, they'd just think the cow was producing less. Every other day, he'd walk 5 miles to Pineville to steal goat milk. Emily would walk 3 miles to sneak into the new wealthy subdivision in town. She brought back food, but mostly yarn and fabric scraps. Under the kerosene lamp, she unraveled the colorful yarn, straightened it out, and stitch by stitch, knitted one-of-a-kind sweaters and hats for me. Gabe always managed to swipe toys from the supermarket, just to bring them out and make me laugh when I cried. The love I had never received, they gave to me. When I was 1 year old and could wobble around holding onto the wall, the thing I feared most happened. That night, Jason came back extremely late. The door was pushed open, and he swayed in the doorway against the night sky, immediately shoving the still warm jar of goat milk into Emily's hands. Emily took it, stunned. Usually, Jason never let anyone else heat the milk for me. He fell straight forward, crashing to the floor with a heavy thud. We were terrified. Emily threw herself at him, pulling him into her arms. As the moonlight spilled in, we saw his face covered in dried, blackened blood, a gruesome gash on his forehead. The color drained from Emily's face. She and Gabe frantically dragged Jason onto the bed. She used a rag dipped in cold water to wipe the blood from his face, then rushed out, tearing up some herbs she recognized, chewing them into a paste, and applying them to his wound with her tears, binding it tight with strips of old cloth. But by the latter half of the night, Jason developed a high fever. He was burning up, muttering nonsense. "Mom, Dad, don't leave, Jason." Tears slid endlessly down his temples. Emily touched his burning forehead, gritted her teeth, and ran out into the night. Not long after, she came back with Old Man Miller. The old man carried a kerosene lamp, hunched over as he walked into the dilapidated shack. When he saw the unconscious, bloody Jason on the bed, he sighed deeply, a sound full of helplessness and pity. "What a sin," he asked no questions, just struggled to lift Jason, who was much taller than him, onto his back, and stepped into the darkness. That night, Emily gripped her hands so tight she dug her nails into her flesh, oblivious to the blood on her thumbs. Gabe held me tight, sitting next to her. In that long, suffocating darkness, through Emily's choked whispers, I pieced together his story. He had parents who loved him very much, but when he was 9, they both died in an accident. Relatives kicked him around like a soccer ball, no one wanted the burden. So Jason clutched his parents' photo and stayed in this crumbling old house alone, eating whatever neighbors could spare, growing up tough. The next afternoon, Old Man Miller finally brought Jason back. Jason had clean gauze wrapped around his head. He was pale and awake, but incredibly weak. It was then that the old man finally noticed my existence. His gaze swept between me and the 3 kids, his brow furrowing tighter and tighter. "This baby, where did she come from?" His voice carried an unquestionable authority. "Found her," Emily whispered, her voice as quiet as a mosquito. Old Man Miller looked at them, then at the bare walls of the shack. His tone grew heavy. "You're just children yourselves. How can you keep a baby alive? Listen to me, take her to the police. Let the government find a good place for her. It's better for all of you." Emily and Jason hung their heads in silence. I looked at Jason with the bloody gauze on his head, at Emily gripping the hem of her shirt, at the bewildered Gabe. I couldn't be their burden. I couldn't let Jason risk his life for me anymore. I had to go. Summoning all my strength, I broke free from Gabe's arms, wobbled over to stand in front of the old man, looked up, and clearly, forcefully, spit out the most sincere yet insincere words of my 2 lives. "Go, go." Emily's head snapped up. She looked at me in disbelief, tears instantly welling up. I avoided her gaze, pointed at the door, and repeated more firmly, "Go." I left with Old Man Miller, and was eventually taken to the town's welfare institute. The moment the door closed, I heard Gabe's hoarse cry, "Anna, don't you want your little dad anymore?" I heard Emily's suppressed sobs, and the dull thud of Jason's fist hitting the mud wall. Life at the institute was monotonous, not good, not bad. But at night, no one used a stolen bell to make me laugh, and no one carefully fed me warm milk. But my 3 parents never forgot me for a single day. They came every day. There was a 100-year-old locust tree in the southeast corner of the institute grounds. Emily would sneak in to see me while Jason kept watch. Emily came almost daily. Sometimes she brought a small piece of cookie she'd saved, sometimes a pressed wildflower. She would quickly tell me what Jason did that day, or what silly thing Gabe said. But more often, she would ask nervously, "Anna, has any man in a suit and tie come to see you? Did the director make you go to her office alone to meet any uncles?" Her questions carried an anxiety and fear I couldn't understand. Until that day, when the answer was revealed in the cruelest way possible. It was an afternoon, and Emily had come to see me as usual. Just then, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, looking refined and scholarly, walked out of the admin building accompanied by the director, appearing to be inspecting the place. Emily's gaze accidentally swept over the man. She froze. Her face went as white as paper instantly. She began to shake uncontrollably. Her eyes first flashed with intense hatred, but that hate was instantly swallowed by immense terror. She spun around abruptly, shoving me hard into her chest, using her thin back to block the man's line of sight. I could clearly feel it, her unease, her fear. In that moment I understood. Her strange questions stemmed from her own trauma. That refined-looking man must have hurt her deeply in the past. But I still underestimated the depths of human depravity. When the man came again, it was late at night. The noise of the director carrying little Flower from the next bed woke me up. As if possessed, I followed them barefoot. The office window wasn't fully closed. I stood on my tiptoes and peered through the crack, witnessing a scene that froze my blood. I suddenly remembered Emily's pale face and her uncontrollable trembling. I understood everything. What she had suffered was this exact hell. In that moment, murderous intent grew in my heart like weeds. I had to send him to hell. From that day on, I kept myself clean and tidy, playing quietly where he could see me. I smiled sweetly at everyone. Sure enough, he noticed me. That evening, I sneaked back to the old shack and left a note I had written beforehand in the most obvious spot on the table. That night, the director came. She picked me up, whispering coaxing words. I thought we were going to the office. But when she placed me in the back seat of a strange sedan, my heart sank. We were changing locations. Immense fear spread through my body. I almost opened my eyes to abort this dangerous plan. Just then, Emily's voice rang clearly in my mind. Anna, good job. You rolled over. Anna, amazing. You're crawling. Anna, try this on. Does the shirt mommy made fit? Those warm fragments flashed by, finally freezing on her eyes, masked by fear. My restless heart miraculously calmed down. Maybe God let me live again just to meet them. Now that I had received the warmth I had longed for, even if I died today because of this, that would be the most important value, the ultimate meaning, of my life. I was placed on a soft bed. The fine texture of the fabric made shivers run down my spine. A moment later, the man walked in, wearing a nauseatingly sweet cologne. His fingers were cold as they lightly brushed my cheek, making me tremble all over. So sweet. He began to undo the buttons of my collar. I snapped my eyes open, feigning confusion and fear. Uncle, who are you? Where is the director? Why am I here? The man paused, then forced a gentle, scholarly smile. Don't be afraid, little one. Your director sent you here so Uncle could take good care of you for the night. Taking advantage of his distraction, I quietly scooted backward. Why did she send me here? I continued playing the innocent child. Because you're the best behaved. He leaned in close, his breath hitting my face. Uncle is going to give you a treat. A chill shot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. I suppressed the rising nausea, screaming internally. Emily, Jason, hurry up. Uncle, I want to go back now. Can I? No, you can't. His smile turned cold, a flash of impatience in his eyes. Seeing his patience wearing thin, I had a desperate idea. I pointed to the light switch. Uncle, let's play hide and seek in the dark. If you can catch me in the dark, I'll listen to you. The man's eyes lit up. Really? Really? I nodded vigorously. Click. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Relying on my small size, I dodged past the wardrobe, rolled under the bed, and hid behind the curtains. The man fumbled clumsily in the dark, his breathing growing heavier as he kept missing. Didn't expect such a clever little thing. His voice carried the annoyance of being toyed with. He had lost all patience. Too bad Uncle isn't in the mood to play anymore. Click. The lights blazed on. Under the harsh light, I was curled up behind a huge potted plant on the balcony, nowhere to hide. Little girl, why are you hiding? He licked his lips. Anna, be a good girl. Uncle will buy you anything you want. He spoke coaxing words, But his actions changed. He turned to the wardrobe and started rummaging. Found you. He slammed a cabinet door and checked under the bed. I flinched in terror. No, not under the bed. His footsteps began to circle the room. Where could you be hiding? Come out on your own, little girl. His voice held the playfulness of a cat with a mouse, and an unmistakable threat. If I have to drag you out myself, it won't be nearly as pleasant. I clamped my hands over my mouth, holding my breath, my heart hammering wildly against my ribs. The footsteps stopped. Finally found you. A shadow loomed over me. He bent down, that disgusting face appearing right in front of me, wearing a triumphant smile. The next second, the world spun. I was roughly thrown back onto the bed. So tempting. His eyes were cloudy and fanatical, his breath spraying on my face. I can't wait to enjoy this. His tone shifted, laced with cruel excitement. But, to punish you for being so clever just now, Uncle needs to teach you a lesson first. He grabbed me, pulling a long, thin leather whip from the bedside drawer. Now, he licked his lips, his eyes twisted with excitement. You can run. I turned to flee, but the small space offered no escape. Crack! A crisp sound tore through the air as the whip struck heavily against my back. Burning pain exploded instantly. I collapsed to the floor, in too much pain to even stand. He paced over slowly, squatting down to look me in the eye, almost admiring my curled-up form. You are the bravest little girl I've ever met. His voice was low, filled with a perverse satisfaction. The more you struggle, the more excited I get. His hand reached for his belt. Click. The soft sound of the metal buckle undoing. My heart sank. I decided I would smash my head against the corner of the bed frame. Just at that critical moment. Bang! The door was smashed open by a tremendous force from the outside, with splinters flying everywhere. Don't move. Police. Anna. Emily's heart-wrenching scream rang out. She rushed in, ignoring everything else, using her trembling body to shield me completely. Following close behind was Jason, his eyes blood red. Without a word, he took off his jacket and quickly wrapped my exposed skin tight. Then he spun around. Without a shred of hesitation, Jason's fist, fueled by rage, smashed into the man who had been so arrogant just seconds ago. Again. And again. The room was filled only with the man's screams. To take better care of me, Jason, Emily, and Gabe managed to get into the same welfare institute. On the day I got into Harvard, Jason's game company launched an indie game titled The Shelter. Players had to control a tiny point of light, searching for companions in cold ruins to build a home that could shelter them from the wind and rain. The game description contained only one sentence, dedicated to the family who gave me light in the darkest night. Emily established her own fashion brand named New Beginnings. The brand's signature was a handwritten line embroidered on the inner lining of every garment. You are precious, and you deserve to be loved. Her first models were all children from the institute who had been abandoned, but whose eyes shone like stars. The biggest surprise was Gabe. He became a painter. He no longer needed to steal colored paper and stones, he had an entire ocean of color. His paintings always featured 4 small silhouettes leaning on each other. When he was 23, a painting titled Rebirth shook the art world. There were no specific faces, just the silhouettes of 4 children huddled together. Behind them lay a broken bridge, and winter at their feet grew brilliant sunflowers stretching to the horizon. This painting was auctioned to an anonymous collector for $15 million. When interviewed, Gabe simply held the microphone and said, slowly and earnestly, Anna, brother, sister, and home. Time had finally brewed the faint glimmer of light we once stole into a galaxy of stars. This spring, Jason and Emily are getting married. The invitation was hand-drawn by Gabe. It showed Jason and Emily embracing under the morning sun, growing from youth to old age together. The night before the wedding, the 4 of us returned to the old shack. Jason held Emily's hand tight, and Gabe, just like when we were little, held mine. Emily looked at us, tears glistening in her eyes, but her smile was incredibly happy. Little Anna, look. We really built ourselves a home. A huge, huge home. I took a crumpled, age-worn piece of paper out of my bag. It was the suicide note I had left on the stove in the old shack the day I decided to sacrifice myself. If I die, Please live on with a smile. Under everyone's surprised gaze, I gently tore it into pieces and scattered them into the wind. I never expected that in this new life, I would cross paths with Zach again. On a tree-lined path at Harvard, when Zach saw me, his pupils constricted, and fear flashed through his eyes. I acted like I didn't see him and walked straight past. A doubt flickered in my mind. I remembered clearly that in my past life, Chloe's grades weren't good enough for Harvard. She only went to state. Why had the trajectory changed in this life? I didn't want to dig into it. After all, the school was huge, running into each other was rare. But that afternoon, Zach blocked my path. Anna, he said, his tone dark and commanding as always. You'd better stay away from Chloe, or else. Or else what? A cold voice sounded from behind him. Jason stepped up to my side in a few strides. He was tall and imposing now, his steady presence instantly overpowering Zach's bluster. I immediately linked my arm through his and shouted happily, "Brother!" Now that we were grown up, I refused to call them mom and dad. It was too embarrassing. Hearing brother, Zach instinctively responded, then realized I wasn't talking to him at all. His brow furrowed tight. What did you call him? I rolled my eyes at him, pulled Jason around to leave, and dropped 4 words over my shoulder. None of your business. After walking a few steps, Jason asked quietly, You know him? Nope, I pouted. Probably some psycho. Came up warning me to stay away from some Chloe person. Weirdo. After that, Zach seemed to haunt me like a ghost. Every time he heard me call Jason or Gabe brother, his frown deepened enough to crush a can, and his eyes grew complicated and hard to read. Finally, Chloe couldn't sit still. She stopped me outside the dorms, her tone spoiled and sharp. I listened quietly, and then, amidst the gasps of the surrounding crowd, I raised my hand and slapped her cleanly across the face. Smack. Crisp and loud. You think your brother is a $100 bill that everyone loves? I shook out my wrist and sneered. Zach heard the news and rushed over. Seeing the red mark on Chloe's face, he exploded with rage. Anna, why are you still so vicious? I didn't hesitate. I backhanded him across the face too. First, my name isn't Anna Sterling. Second, your sister started it. I looked around, meeting the eyes of everyone watching the drama. Haven't you heard the saying? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I had agreed to go back to the old shack for New Year's with Emily, Jason, and Gabe, our real home. I didn't expect to run into the Sterling parents waiting at the familiar alley entrance. They wore expensive coats that looked completely out of place in this run-down neighborhood. Mr. Sterling stepped forward, eyes disdainful, speaking as if granting a favor. Jianan, we've investigated. You are our biological daughter. Come home with me. Exactly the same as my previous life. Mrs. Sterling's eyes instantly turned red, and she moved emotionally to hug me. My daughter. I took a step back, avoiding her touch. Her hands froze in midair, shock and hurt written all over her face. Oh, I replied, my voice flat without a ripple of emotion. Mr. Sterling was extremely dissatisfied with my reaction, frowning deeply. Jianan, recognize your status. Returning to the Sterling family is the best choice for you. I laughed. It was an undisguised sneer. Mr. Sterling, I heard your son Zach fell in love with your daughter Chloe, and you caught them in bed? I said playfully, enjoying the sudden drain of color from their faces. Then Zach confessed on the spot that Chloe isn't biologically related. You rushed to find me just because you want to use the real daughter to save your plummeting stock prices, and conveniently have an excuse to kick out the fake daughter who shamed you. My gaze swept over their pale faces, then turned firmly to Jason, Emily, and Gabe beside me. Why would I go back? I linked arms with Emily and Jason, and Gabe immediately pressed close to my side. Look, I have my own mom and dad. I smiled, my voice clear and firm. Even though they aren't much older than me, they gave me things you couldn't give me in a lifetime. With that, I shut them out. Later, I heard the Sterling family went completely bankrupt. Chloe stole all of the corporation's core secrets, sold them to a competitor, embezzled the funds, and vanished without a trace. One winter evening, just as I was leaving Jason's company, I was stopped at a street corner by a haggard man. He was wearing an old trench coat unsuited for the season, his hair messy, his eyes bloodshot. It was Zach. Anna. His voice was hoarse and dry, thick with regret and begging. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I looked at him quietly. This brother who had pushed me down the stairs in my past life and dumped me under a bridge in this one. Looking so pathetic now. It was truly satisfying. In my past life, I was a bastard, blinded by lies. I shouldn't have treated you that way. And in this life, I definitely shouldn't have thrown you away. He started to choke up. I regret it every single day. Regret throwing you. He reached out, trying to grab my sleeve. I took a step back, my eyes cold. Anna, please give me a chance. Let me make it up to you. He fell to his knees. I know I have nothing now, but in the future. Zach, I interrupted him calmly. I can never forgive you, but I don't hate you either. He looked at me in shock. You left me under a bridge, wanting me to die, but I found a new life instead. I paused, my gaze drifting to the brilliant city lights down the street, where the home Jason and Emily lit up for me was waiting. From the moment Jason and the others picked me up, I had a family. I looked at his face, written with pain and regret, and said one last thing. I'm going home now. They're waiting for me for dinner. With that, I stopped looking at him and turned to walk across the street. There, Jason was standing by the car waiting for me, and Gabe was waving vigorously from inside.